Hi, I'm Annie. I just finished Outlast 2 for the first time. I know this game came out in like 2017, but I just finished playing it, and I have a lot of thoughts. Here's how not to write about child exploitation. So I feel like I should definitely preface this by saying I'm not a gamer. It took me like 3 hours just to get through this one section where you had to like crawl under a fence.
Oh my god, it worked!
On easy mode. I'm not super qualified to speak on gameplay, but I am an indie filmmaker and I do enjoy writing decent stories with like characters and like plot lines that make sense. Please don't come at me, because I didn't ever play Outlast 1. I know I probably should have before playing the second one, but I just happened to get the second game a really long time ago because it was on sale on the Nintendo Switch, and that's just the one that I had lying around, and so that's the one that I decided to stream. I did grow up in a religious cult. I grew up in fundamentalist Christianity, and I thought that this game would be really fun to play because of my past and my history. It does focus a lot on the darker sides of Catholicism and Christianity, so I figured it would be great. After looking into it, neither Outlast 1 or Outlast 2 have any real overlap that would matter to the storylines, considering they're set in two different areas with different characters and entirely different plot lines. There's some like Easter eggs here and there, but as far as I know, these two games do not need to be played in order, and I'm purely looking at this game from a story perspective, and that's it. So please don't get pissed, okay? Just, I don't want to hear it. I know it's a lot for you to take in, okay? I do. But bear with me, okay? There's a lot of sexual themes in this game. They do not shy away from, like, forced pregnancy and child exploitation, loss of bodily autonomy because of religion, so we'll be unpacking a lot of themes of guilt and self-inflicted death and harm. So if that kind of thing is going to trigger you, this is Outlast 2 we're going to be discussing. So there are also, I know, crazy enough, gonna be spoilers for the game. So if you have gone since 2017 without looking into this game at all and you're pissed off that I gave you spoilers, then you can So Outlast 2 follows our main character Blake and his wife Lynn. They're on their way to investigate a woman who was found 8 months pregnant before eliminating herself in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. They crash land in this town that's like filled with cultists and crazy religious fanatics, and they force pregnancies on women so that they can slaughter their babies.
Oh, okay. So there's dead babies.
Just know that there are piles of babies in this game. Piles of dead babies. Like, several. We're playing the game as Blake, and his wife Lynn gets kidnapped by these cultists for the same purpose as all the rest of the women that they've abused prior. And it's up to Blake, the player, to find her and get them both out of there before they assault her and force her to give birth and then likely kill her and the baby. There's a lot of different enemies in this game, ranging from like crazed prophets like Noth and Marta, to satanic heretics like Val and all of her creatures, which I guess were people at some point, but now they're like stick creatures or something. And then there's an actual monster just made out of tongues and hands that only resides in Blake's flashbacks when he was a student at Catholic school. So this game has two different real plot lines. The first one being Blake's flashbacks, which happened to him when he's in Catholic school as a kid. And the other plot line is the one with Lynn. I'm going to be focusing mainly on the flashback part of this game because it focuses around some themes that I think were handled very inappropriately. So we do learn a lot about Blake and his state of mind, as well as his relationship with his now wife Lynn, through these flashbacks that he has from his time at Catholic school. We also learn about Jessica, who is a childhood friend of both Lynn and Blake that also went to the same Catholic school. And it's implied that Blake and Jessica have some sort of, like, romantic tension, even though they're kids, like, just childlike romantic tension between the two of them. And this innocent romantic relationship between these two kids becomes evident in Blake's dialogue throughout the game. Sometimes he even mixes up Jessica's name with Lynn's name when he's trying to save Lynn. Blake thinks about this girl a lot. And it's revealed that she never made it to her adult years because she hung herself at some point during her time at school. It's also implied that Blake found her body hanging, and he feels some level of guilt and responsibility for that, but we're not really sure why until we get to the end of the game. No scene in the entire rest of the game handles child sexual abuse with the same explicit mishandling as this flashback at the end of the game with Jessica and Blake. And that's what I really want to unpack. So, during a cutscene nearing the end of the game, Jessica and Blake are together in the school after hours holding hands. They're caught by one of the priests, and the priest grabs Jessica and pulls her into his office, telling her that she needs to go and pray with him. The priest tells Blake that if he doesn't want to get in trouble, he should just leave, and Blake does just that, leaving Jessica alone against her will with this ill-intentioned priest. As we're walking through the hallways of the school to go home, we are graced with Jessica's rhythmic screaming from the music room, as we can only presume that this horrible fucking man is assaulting her. I want to keep in mind that these characters are probably in like 4th grade to 6th grade. She runs out of the room, and then Blake chases the priest that's chasing her until we end up in a stairwell where it has been revealed that Jessica is dead. She's lying on the stairwell with marks around her neck, and we're not really sure if she hung herself for real or if the priest is the one that killed her and pinned it on her killing herself. And the main reason why I hate this scene so fucking much and why it bothered me so much is because it was completely unnecessary. The whole point of writing a scene like this should be to progress the story forward in a way that nothing else could. This scene in Outlast 2 seems like it's only written and put into the game for shock value, which I can understand because the entire game is just chock full of shock value. But this one is more than that. It's realistic. Millions of children have to deal with this kind of thing every single day. Everywhere, and it's a very real issue. And instead of, using this scene to make a statement on this very real issue, it's used solely to give the viewers a gross and violated feeling. I understand that that's like the whole point of the game, but handling an issue of this magnitude should not be taken lightly. It's irresponsible at best, and it doesn't even add up to anything that shocking in the end. It's just an assault scene for the sake of an assault scene. For instance, in flashbacks leading up to this event, the imagery of Jessica hanging herself is everywhere. When we find her in the stairwell, she isn't hanging at all. She's just laying on the stairs. If the traumatic image of her untimely demise by hanging was so ingrained in Blake's psyche, why did he never actually see it? Did the priest kill her? Did she do it herself? Like, what? Did Blake watch her do the deed or not? It's just unclear. Why hanging? That seems like such a weird way to go for a child of this age. Whether or not the priest was trying to pin him killing her on her killing herself. Like, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It's dumb. I really did keep on waiting for the imagery of a hanging child to come up somewhere else in the game other than the flashbacks, and it never did. It's implied through the flashbacks that this priest has been doing this kind of thing with Jessica for a while and has been trying to isolate her from her friends and family. It's also implied that Jessica might have a strained relationship with her own dad, making it really difficult for her to get any kind of help. But it literally never ties into the real world with Lynn and the cult at all. These flashbacks are just there to be random flashbacks. It really felt like the death and assault of Jessica was supposed to be this big deal, but the only reason why we feel like it's a big deal is because Blake tells us it's a big deal throughout the dialogue. Even Lynn, Blake's wife, states that she hasn't thought about Jessica in years, and she's confused as to why it's coming up now. And it matches the exact same emotions and feelings that the entire audience has as well. Why is this coming up now? I kept waiting for there to be an answer. And there never is. The only answers we ever get are, well, the priest abused this kid, and now the kid is dead. And call me new age, but I don't think you need to write about child exploitation if it isn't necessary to the main plot of your story. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should never use sexual imagery of a child to progress your story and instill feelings of dread in your audience. I think we have a ton of examples of stories that have done this correctly and made for a much better story because of it. To show you kind of what I mean, I'm going to pull from The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2, and also from the Alien movie from 1979. There are going to be spoilers, so skip this section if you don't want spoilers for The Last of Us or Alien 1979. In The Last of Us Part 1, there's a scene where one of our main characters, Ellie, gets kidnapped by a group of cannibals. The head cannibal, David, wants to keep her as a pet. This grown-ass man strokes this kid's fingers as she's grabbing onto the bars of her cage and tells her that she's special. Ellie and the audience all come to the realization at the same time as to what this fucking man's intentions are. She is realizing that she has nobody around to help her with this. That she is alone. And you, as the audience, feel just as isolated as she does in this moment. And the reason why this is so powerful is because this kid grew up in the fucking apocalypse. She has seen people be ripped apart, blown up. She had to kill her own best friend and romantic interest because she got infected and tried to kill her. So this kid has been through it. And even after everything she's been through, this subtle moment of foreboding makes Ellie and the audience realize that she has not seen it all. That she has more to lose. That she is alone. Which is a running theme throughout the first and second games, by the way. After this incident with David, she will never be the same. And never is the same. This incident with David sparks something in her, and the audience gets to witness just how much damage she can cause when she is pushed to do so. Being David's pet is a fate worse than death. And she is willing to fight tooth and nail to get out of that situation. She literally burns down a town. Nothing else could have pushed her to those levels we see. And we also see traces of her trauma throughout the whole rest of the game, and even into part 2. It's incredibly impactful, and I genuinely believe that there is no other way that they could have written that in. In Alien from 1979, sexual imagery is fucking everywhere, and you can't tell me I'm wrong. It's put here to instill the same feelings I believe they were going for in Outlast 2. To compare this flaccid horror game to one of the best sci-fi films of all time is humorous, to say the least. But I'm gonna do it anyway! In Alien 1979, the use of sexual imagery is rampant. It's everywhere, from the design of the xenomorph facehugger, to the design of the adult xenomorph, to the layout of the ship with the cavernous, ribbed design. The film is surrounded by these images to make us feel uneasy and violated. It's a feeling that we don't get anywhere else. It's a feeling that's really close to disgust, but it goes deeper. Ridley Scott, the creator of the Alien franchise, actually hired on the help of an artist and sculptor, H.R. Giger, I believe is his name. He is famous for making art that is mechanical and erotic. Giger specifically was asked to help in the design of this film so that it could be as sexually violating as it could be without being explicit. The result? One of the most terrifying and nail-biting cinema experiences we have ever had. It leaves the audience disgusted, and they dwell on it for the rest of their lives. I've only seen this movie like twice in my life, and the imagery has lodged itself deep in my subconscious, right next to the images of my own trauma. It provides the effect of disturbing the viewer in ways that couldn't be done in any other way. That's what makes it so memorable and unique. The way that Outlast 2 gives us this sexual imagery? Dead babies, forced pregnancy, and monster orgies. No, I'm not kidding. Now, do I expect Ridley Scott level of perfection and quality for a horror game about a cult in Arizona? Of course not. But the way that J.T. Petty wrote this out is just bland. I never felt like I was disturbed in a way that I had never been disturbed before. There's this one scene where Blake, played by the viewer, is being held down and he's being violated by a very tall woman whispering very sexual things to him. He watches as her cronies are dragging his wife away, and it is a driving factor in his frantic search for his wife. Because of the way that this woman treats him, we realize as viewers, it's about to be so much worse for his wife, Lynn. And we fight tooth and nail with Blake to recover her. I feel like this is the closest we ever get in this entire game to getting like a decently done assault scene. And it's mediocre at best. And I know that some people are going to scream and cry. But you have to read the comics too! I don't care! After spending hours on this lukewarm story, the last thing I want to do is spend more hours of my life trying to figure out the lore behind it. There is a good rule of thumb to follow when you are writing any story. You want to keep your audience hooked the whole time. You want them begging you for more, not because you didn't give them enough to begin with, but because they just want more. I can say that there were a couple of parts in this game where I was hooked, but it never lasted very long and the ending totally fizzled out. And when it did, it just left me feeling upset. I wanted the build-up to lead to something and it never did. I have more critiques about this game in terms of the continuity as well. There's a scene where Blake gets his camera taken from him during some sort of monster orgy, and then like 2 scenes later, he's got his camera again. He also gets crucified at some point, and then just gets down and starts climbing on shit. I don't know if JT Petty is aware of all the bones in your hand that get splintered during a crucifixion, but it's enough to be able to not allow you to do a pull-up on a rock ledge immediately after. When Lynn gives birth, there are like no bodily juices at all, and the baby is not even attached to anything. And I guess that there are some people that say that there was no baby at all, and that it was just a hallucination, and, you know, that maybe he was dead the whole time or whatever, but I don't care. The idea that this game ends with a he was dead the whole time or a he was just hallucinating doesn't do it for me. And if it does it for you, you should really raise your fucking standards. This is some of the laziest writing, and considering the amounts they spent to get this game out and the amount of people they had helping to produce this, you'd think they'd have more than just one writer.
Writer is JT Petty. JT Petty sucks.
But apparently, to JT Petty and Red Barrels, you don't need a good story when you can have forced pregnancy, assault of minors that are meaningless to the plot, and cheap jump scares. Hell, you don't even need a decent story. To say this game is a letdown would be to put it lightly. So come for me in the comments if you must, but I will not be recommending this game to literally anyone, and I am extremely disappointed in how JT Petty decided to use child exploitation like this in a way that doesn't even progress the story at all. My dog could write a better story. And as you can see, he has about 2 functioning brain cells, and one of them is always on break. Okay, I think that's the end of my rant. I would love to hear your thoughts on this game. Were you as disappointed as I was by the end of it? I just whipped this video out of my ass in like a day, so I'm sure that there are things that are important that I missed that I would like to have covered and will think about later. and will be too late to cover. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Did you guys like Outlast 2? And how did you feel about the Jessica plotline? Because that shit did not do it for me at all. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you don't comment anything and you have thoughts about this game, I curse you. Martha will come and stab you with her pickaxe. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. If you guys want to watch me stream gameplay and stuff like that, I upload all of the Twitch streams to YouTube, or you can go and follow me over on Twitch. My link is in the bio. Sometimes I'll also edit the clips and then post them here. I want to do more videos like this as well, so be on the lookout for those. And that's all I got. That's it. That's all I got.
Wait, are there enemies in this game?
There's enemies in this game?